What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Parent Network podcast. You know, I am your host, Ashley Aites. And in this season 3, we are still running with the men, with the dads. And I am excited to have our guest with us today, Derek Mays. He is a father of 3, a husband, and he is going to share with us about his journey, his story. As you all know, this platform is dedicated to parents. And so it would only be right if we had a whole season dedicated to the father. So without further ado, y'all, I am going to allow Derek to introduce himself and we're going to get into this good conversation.
Hello, everybody. I am Derek Mays. As you've heard, I am a husband. I've been married for 12 years this year. 3 beautiful children, 16, 11, and 5. It's hard to keep up sometimes. That's about it here in Chicago, Illinois. HR professional, also a youth pastor. So I'm just glad to be here on this platform.
I am excited to have you. Thank you so much for lending your expertise to the Parent Network podcast. I have had the privilege of interviewing your brothers, and they have asked, has he did his interview? And I was like, no, not yet. But he has said that he would. So here we are. So let's just kind of talk about what childhood was like for you. Just kind of share any moments from childhood that you may feel impacted your life, had a very big imprint in your upbringing.
Yeah, so my childhood was strange because I am the eldest child of 8. So it wasn't, but we weren't all in the same house. But I do have 7 siblings, 4 sisters and 3 brothers. And growing up until around 9 years old, I was in a 2-parent home. My mom and my dad were married, raised me and 2 sisters and a brother in the house. And they divorced at 9. And so I had the dynamic of having a father in my life consistently to after 9, not having him there at all. So
Oh,
it's a bit,
wow.
yeah, it's a bit weird. He was there, but it was so inconsistent that it's just like why even be a part of it? And then you had all of broken promises, just all of that. I think that worked out for me, good and bad, um, uh, impact wise, because again, I had him there, so I kind of know what it's like to have a father, but then I didn't, and so I had some trauma there that I had to work through in my latter years, and then try not to uh, be who he was.
Hmm.
So and then turned around and had to be a father to siblings, and I didn't know
Mm.
what that was like, and seeing that I only had father up until 9 years old. So those important years of my life, he wasn't there, and those gaps were being filled with my grandfather, my godfather, but it wasn't my father. So it was extremely weird. It was extremely weird to say the least. Yeah.
The weirdness that's making me chuckle. One of the things that you said was having to be a father figure to your younger siblings, being the oldest of 8. So we know that that is parentification. How do you feel like being parentified at such a young age either benefited you or robbed you of even, and this is jumping way ahead, but because it's on my brain, I was like, let me just ask him now.
Mhm.
How do you feel that that either benefited or robbed you in your parenting journey?
So I think it was a bit of both uh, for me. People are different, and they take situations, and they either victimize themselves
Right.
with it, or they grow and learn from it. And so I kind of got both. For me, one being I missed out on a whole lot of childhood stuff,
Right.
because I was raising, if you will, siblings. So I learned how to be a parent.
Hmm.
I didn't know what it was like to pay bills and all of that
Right.
just yet, but it taught me to care for another individual, even though those are my siblings. It felt as if they were, they're mine. I went into protection mode, made sure that they had what they needed, and I went with that sometimes because my mom
Mm,
wasn't there. So it kind of gave me a heads up on what fatherhood would be like. I was extremely protective, especially with my sisters,
hmm.
that they were right behind me, and so it was like now that's how I am with my daughters. I didn't know that that was gonna, that's what it was preparing me for. But I think that's what it did. But like I say, back to the negative part of it, I missed out on a whole lot of childhood stuff. And so having children now is just like, I don't really know what that's like. I don't know, being outside all the time or, riding a bike. Like my children love, they're very active. I was always in the house because
Yes.
I was always with my siblings and they were outside, but I couldn't do anything because I had to make sure that they were safe, that they were all right, that they had this, that they were good. And so I would just sit off on the side like a parent would and
Hmm.
allow them to enjoy themselves. And so now I'm like, I just want to be in the house because it's that's what I'm so used to. My wife is sick of me because she's like, you don't ever want to go anywhere. But that's where that came from. So that's how it's a little bit of both for me.
Do you feel like the role was kind of put on you, or did you assume that role because of the absence of your father?
No, I didn't. It was put it
He
was
said,
put
"Nope,
on
I
me.
didn't."
No, I didn't, because again, being 9 years old, but you don't understand. You
Hmm.
don't know the intricacies of a divorce and the effects that it have, not just on us who are the seed of the parents, but the parents themselves. And so it was put on me due to the fact that now it's four of us, four children in the house with my mom who's now single. So now she has to adjust to being a single parent and a working single parent. So she
Yes,
was not there. And so she would leave. People probably get arrested for stuff like this now, but growing up, our parents left us in the house
absolutely.
by ourselves while they went to work. And so she was gone the majority of the day, the evening, and so here I am making sure that I'm, warming up food in the microwave. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it was I didn't assume it. It was just this is what is expected of you, and I know I had to do it. I didn't be like,
Ooh.
hey, I want to volunteer to be no, you know,
And then he said to get somebody else to do
yeah, please,
it.
where's my auntie or uncle or somebody,
Where's
have them,
somebody else?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that whole being parentified at such a young age, as you said, it can work for you in the future. And I think once you work through those levels of trauma first, because I know for myself, although I wasn't technically parentified, I was the caregiver for my dying maternal grandmother at
Mm,
9. So, summertime, I am, in the house with this woman. She is my grandmother, but she is literally dying. And I am the only kid. And so I think now, in hindsight, it's like, I don't like hospitals. I don't like going around, people who are dying. Dead things do not excite me, on a natural level.
right.
But having that understanding that, okay, the nurture part, looking out for people, making sure people are good. And like you said, kind of putting yourself last, it stems from something. And that
Hmm.
childhood seed that gets planted when you have to assume roles before it's time can be a doozy and make your
Yeah,
childhood feel very, very
yeah.
real and weird.
Very weird.
So, with that being such a pivotal moment in your life, how was the relationship, with your father and mother as they were divorcing? Did you ever contact your father? Did you ask questions of your mother? Were they answered? Kind of Talk to us a
Yeah,
little bit about
so
that.
I never lost that's the weird part about the relationship with my father is that I never lost contact with him. Well, let me start with my mom. For a moment, I resented her after especially in my teenage years, because started to realize that I've been given this expectation or this role that I didn't
Mm,
want nor knew how to operate in, but was just expected of me to do because my father was not there. And so I resented her through my teenage years and, some of my early 20s as well, because I felt, she should have done something differently to ensure that I still had the childhood that I rightfully deserved.
mm-hmm,
And so it was difficult. And then I didn't really talk to her about it. And so I
mm,
kind of acted out in high school and skipping class, not going, almost not graduating high school, and just all that kind of leaving, running away. I wasn't always like the bad kid doing like selling drugs or anything like that, but I just was doing that typical teenage stuff back in when we were teenagers or whatever. And so I resented her for that for a very long time until my mid 20s, late 20s, where I had a conversation with her to talk about, she victimized herself so much. And I understood at this
mm,
moment, I know you were right to feel how you felt. You were, because you were going through, it was an adjustment. You were divorced, you single mom with 4 children, I mean, I get it, I understand, but you also have to realize that you didn't afford me the opportunity to grow up properly. I grew up so
right.
fast that I missed a whole lot of my childhood, the fun parts of it, and the people skill. I missed a whole lot of stuff. And on top of that, there was still a whole lot of other trauma that was going on with family dynamic,
Mm-hmm,
losing grandparents and all of that kind of stuff. And so, but I kind of like healed from that. But with my father, though, it's a little bit different because I still was in contact with him. And again, it was always broken promises. He would say he's coming, but didn't.
mm-hmm,
He'll say he'll do, but did not do. And I yearned so much because my mom was there. So I had her, but I didn't have him. And so I yearned so much to have a relationship with my father that I allowed that space to be open to him to come in and out. With, is you're here 20 minutes and the next 20 days I don't hear from you or see you, and you come
yeah.
back and because I just yearned to have that. And so, but even with him as well, I had a conversation with him. I recently just healed from, and I'm 40 now. Just recently healed from my daddy issues.
Mm-hmm,
Like people always say, girls got daddy. No, boy, we do too. I had daddy issues, and so I
yes.
just healed maybe in the last couple of years um, with with trying to comb through all of the hurt and the trauma and the void that was there due to the negligence of a father son relationship. So because I can't just put it on him. I was
Right.
in my adult age, I still was there trying to get him to be in my life, knowing that he was out doing what he wanted to do and he wasn't really. So it's not all on him. And I had to come to that realization too. And it sucked. But it was like, it was me too, because I could have just not allowed him that space to put the dagger in again. But I had the conversation with him as well. And now I don't even, I mean, I don't know where he is. I don't really talk. I don't have time. I'm not in contact with him now. But I did a few years ago have the opportunity to have that conversation with him. Like, I forgive you.
Mm-hmm,
Even though you apologize, but you constantly did. And I
right.
understand and know that apologies is not just what you say, it's that change behavior that's needed to prove that you are indeed apologetic. And that never happened. So I had to forgive him without that action on his part to move forward. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And doing that while being a husband and a father,
That's
that it,
that's that's it right there.
yeah.
Having one layer of trauma, and then as you said, then you have another layer of trauma with family dynamics.
Hmm.
Then we're moving into, just the woes of life, and understanding, coming into identity as a young man, and still, as you said, longing for that relationship to have with your father to affirm you, to do all of the things,
Hmm.
and then carrying that into, various relationships. And then, boom, now here I am, a husband, and I have to show up in a way that I never really seen the
Hmm.
full example of. And now we're adding another layer of children to this. And
Yep.
that right there that's a whole podcast in and
Yeah.
of itself. But I love how you said you intentionally started to heal from those father wounds. And again, when we're talking about wounds from parents, it is not gender specific. Women have father wounds, women have mother wounds. I dealt with the mother wound, as I've
Hmm.
shared on this podcast, where yes, my mom was present physically, but she was very void emotionally. She was
Hmm.
very void, in just affection, love, dedication. It was about survival. So I
Yeah.
knew how to survive, but I never knew how to just rest and
Yeah.
thrive and just become, and allow femininity to be. But until I took the responsibility, like you said, Derek, to heal and then take responsibility for my stuff, which
Yeah.
was I don't really care if we have a relationship, but deep down inside, it's like, yeah, I still want that mother daughter relationship because I have
Hmm.
friends. I see it with the friends. I see it,
Yep.
on TV. You think this is the ideal way of
Yeah.
parenting. And so there's so many complexities to the family dynamic when we're talking about parental wounds. And so you said something about the inconsistency of your dad, in and out and what that looked like. How do you feel like that kind of impacted you in fatherhood? We'll jump there and then we'll just kind of.
Yeah. So dynamic now is not it can, I guess, would fall under a statistic where I have three children, but my oldest child is not with my wife. So my oldest child, I was in the military, so he lives in California, and like I said, he's going to be 16. But then my wife and
Shout
I,
out to the West
yeah,
Coast.
he is in Cali. He's in Fresno. Yeah, he lives in Fresno. I was in the Navy, so that's where I was stationed
Okay.
all my years in the Navy. But he is my wife and I have two daughters, and so that those daddy issues that I have affected my relationship with my son. Not so much with my daughters because they're here in my house, they're
Hmm.
present. I was able to kind of ignore my issues with my dad because I was so involved in their lives. And I was not leaving. Like, we're in the same house, we're here. My wife, I had my wife here and all that, so it was easier to kind of like not fall into what I saw or experience with my dad, or fall into the victimization or the hurt and all that stuff for my dad. But with my son, it's completely different because I for and this is me working through my dad issues for
Hmm.
about he's going to be 16 in February. Around his 14th birthday is when I saw him around his so I was there when he was born, first few months of, and then I moved back to Chicago, and then I didn't see him again until he was like 5, and then my next time seeing him was when he was 14,
Hmm.
and I did not keep in contact with him. I didn't reach out. I would blame his mother. Um, so a lot of people didn't know this. This is part of this is how I know I'm healed too, because I
You get
take
to share
accountability
it.
for, I get to share
Yeah.
it. It feels really good. But so like I said, I didn't go back to see him until he was about 14. I blamed his mom, because all of the issues that her and I had.
Hmm.
So it's her fault. But in actuality, it was me, and I lived my life saying I would never be like my father. And I tried, try not to be like him. I turned out like him in that aspect with my son. And so that's the reason why I had to start peeling back the layers,
Hmm.
exposing the wounds so that they can properly heal, so that I can be the father to my son without him being 35, 40 years old like I
Right.
was, saying that my dad did this. And it's that generational cycle thing. And so yeah, that hurt, that father stuff. Um it was detrimental. Like it could have literally ruined. I missed the same amount of time, that the same amount of years, or the pivotal moment in those moments in his life that I missed was missed in mine. You know what I'm saying? So it's just
Yeah.
like, geez, that affected me that much. But I refused to continue in that way. And so that was the reason I had to do what my father didn't do,
Yeah.
and not just call my son and apologize and take accountability with him, but I had to prove it. I had to show it. And so I've been showing up, for the last few years. I've been showing been showing up. And it's a learning process. It's us
Mm-hmm.
building. Um and I'm now experiencing fatherhood like never before, because not only can I actually be a father to a son, but I'm a father to a teenage son.
Yeah, and that's a
So
woo.
it's that's a different that's a different that's different kind of fathering or parenting.
Listen, oh man, I love that. You hear the redemption even in your voice talking, and as you said, that's how you know the product of being healed is I can share my story from a
Hmm.
place where there is no shame, there is no condemnation, because what we do in our brokenness does not have to be the totality of our life. And
Hmm.
similar to what you said, we go so hard at not wanting to be like the person that failed us to a certain degree,
Hmm.
to being like them in mannerism, in character, and in action. And then it becomes our responsibility to take action and to say, you know what, okay, at some point I am cognizant of what I'm doing and I don't want to continue this way. And as you said, that whole cycle of generational curses, it can continue, or we can
Yeah.
be the ones to say, you know what, no, it stops with me. I'm going to take
Yeah.
accountability for my actions and repairing it. So I do have a question, because you've kind of talked about, how your childhood has impacted manhood and fatherhood. So even with your oldest son being from your previous relationship, how has that co-parenting space been, or how was it? Was it just like cold turkey, like I'm not talking to her or
Yeah.
him? Was your wife pivotal in you all repairing that relationship?
Yeah, so it was touch and go with us. It was here and there. Anytime we did have a conversation, it was always, some slick words shared, or attitudes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
The true definition of, like, baby mama drama over the phone type stuff. It was just ridiculous.
I
But
understand.
my wife, she one thing that I love and respected her for, I knew where she stood when it came to my relationship with my son's mom and my son. She made it very clear with me, but she never interjected in the relationship between the three of us. She stayed here in my home. She voiced how she felt, and she still allowed me to do what I needed to do there,
Yeah.
regardless of how long it took. But she still pushed me, because one thing that I can say, that it affected my house.
Mhm.
And I don't think I didn't realize how much it affects people that are connected to me, especially those that are so close, when you
Yeah.
have unresolved issues
Yeah.
somewhere in another area of your life. And so here I am, not being a father to my son, but I have two daughters who don't know their brother.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? So, and then I have my wife who's looking at me like, "Don't be a deadbeat."
Right.
I didn't marry a deadbeat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't sit here and say that you're a man of God, or a man, or a father to our daughters, and you got a whole son who you don't even check on or talk to or take care of. And and so that she was, like I said, very pivotal in it. But I think it was more so my awakening moment was knowing that my children, my daughters, didn't have a relationship with their brother, and I'm extremely close to all of my siblings, and
Okay.
I'm bothered by them not calling me. I'm bothered by it. Like, I haven't heard from you. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? What's happening? I need to know what's going on with you. I don't care if it's nothing going on. I want to know that there's nothing going on. So it bothered me to know that my daughters have each other, but they don't have that relationship with their brother. And that's when I realized I can't just marry them. I can't put that together.
Right.
I, I have to fix me, because in order for them to come together and stay there and he not resent them because they've been in the house with me, and then they not feel some kind of way because they like, well, who is he? We don't really, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I need to fix me, and then I need to make sure that they, all three of them, see that daddy is making the changes and taking the necessary actions to heal himself, to
Yeah.
be whole for all three of them. So, and make the environment, safe, make the environment pure enough for
Yes.
them to love one another on their levels.
That safety in environment and in home dynamic is so important for
Hmm.
children, especially when you're blending, families together or whatever that looks like. It is so important. I always tell people this as a fun fact. I am the youngest oldest, and people are like, huh?
I
And
get
so
it.
yeah, I'm like on my mom's side, I'm the youngest, but on my dad's side, I'm the oldest. And I have
Hmm.
younger brothers on my dad's side. And because I never knew what that looked like growing up because we weren't raised together, coming into adulthood, it's like, oh, you're a big sister. So you should probably check on them. You should probably develop a relationship with them. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't really know what that looks like because it was just the two of us. And so, because my dad, he was very family oriented, and the dynamics of he and my mom was just, it was trash. But I respect him for, you know, saying when I did come into relationship with him, hey, you have siblings and I want us to get together and I want you to meet them and I want you to develop relationship with them, however slow it takes, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
And, for the most part, we are all in communication now. I told myself that I was going to get back, doing the Zoom because we're not all in the same state. But when
Hmm.
we are together, it is cohesive. And I have nieces and nephews that I'm like, okay, Ashley, you gotta, you've
Yeah.
gotta be
Yeah.
more present, but still working, even for myself, working through those issues of family dynamics. Like, I stress this so much that it is so important that the family dynamics have such a working foundation. Otherwise, you're going to have pieces everywhere,
Everywhere.
and
Yep.
those fragmented parts of you are going to show up in your relationships. And
Yeah.
for me, you said you're a homebody, and I'm like, yes, I understand that totally and completely. I
Yeah.
have a introverted nature, but what I see as I've been healing is how God is like, yeah, you need to recharge alone
Hmm.
sometimes. You need to put, I've called you into community, I've called you into spaces with people. So
Yeah.
while you may want to be reclusive, get yourself together and go out
And go
amongst the
outside. Yeah.
people.
Yeah. I
So
get it.
it's
It
like,
costs too much to be outside. It
it
costs too much.
it costs too much time, it costs too much energy. I'm just
Yeah.
automatically drained.
Yeah.
Like people, but I love people because I love God's people. And
Hmm.
watching people, heal is probably one of the most funnest things that I can do, and just listening to how people transform and take accountability. And so, speaking of accountability, what is your thought process on accountability in community as far as men are concerned?
I think when it comes to accountability, like I said, it's always about recognizing that uh, who else's issue it is, or who else played a part in the issue, but what's your part in it? Because even the lack of not playing a part is a part, and that, and so taking owning the fact that you did or did not have something to do with it. I think it starts there, especially in our community of men.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure that we have to be unashamedly okay with stating the fact that yeah, I play a part in this, or I didn't. My lack of response or my lack of being active plays a huge part in it being negative or whatever. It starts there, and then also recognizing your wholeness. Your like, are you whole? Are
Hmm.
you whole enough to deal with being able to be accountable for certain things? You know what I mean? Like, because accountability is not just owning a mistake. Where did
Right.
that come from? Why did you do it? We don't go past I did it, I'll move
Right.
forward. No, let's stop with the present and let's dig into what caused me to feel like I could have done this and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? So that's true accountability, digging into the reasons behind certain actions and circumstances or whatever, growing from there,
Yeah.
not at the point of my acknowledgement, but you got to go before that and then move forward.
Yeah, I think that acknowledgement piece is really just confession. Like, I'm confessing to
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
what's happening, what's going on. But
hmm
as you said, digging into the action, digging into the root. What is the root of this? What is causing this? Because everything else is just fruit, it's
hmm
surface stuff. But once you dig into the root of it, um, that's where the true healing really begins.
yeah.
And so, as you've been on just your journey of healing, what have you noticed differently about yourself? Let's just say from 5 years ago till now.
Well, I'm still a homebody, but I do I do a whole lot more. I'm okay again. I've grown to love to tell my story because it as I'm telling it, I'm being healed even more. I feel
Yeah.
more freer. But then I also know the impact that it has or it can have on others, even if I don't see the action taking place with them. I know that it's happening because they're listening. But my relationships with all three of my children, it's grown tremendously deeper. My love for family is just it's phenomenal, and I can really truly say now that I'm not like my father. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm not because he didn't get to this point, and he still has time, but he's not there. He hasn't. So, um, yeah, that's what I see the biggest differences, and I'm more freer when it comes to being who God calls me to be. I don't have that one thing, where the enemy will be in your ear, like you can't be
Mm-hmm.
telling, preaching, and teaching all of this stuff and it's for you to be a youth pastor and you ain't even got a relationship with so I don't feel that condemnation
Yeah.
anymore. I feel like okay, this is where I should have been. I'm where I'm meant to be.
That's so good. That's so good. How's your relationship with your mom now?
My relationship, she gets on my nerve. I feel like I'm raising
You raising your parent?
I feel like I'm raising my mother now. Yeah. She called me today. It's like, hey, I need, I love her. I love her to life. My relationship with her is great. I'm helping her get through learning how to heal. It's been so long. Like that
Yeah.
happened 9 years. I was nine. So I was 32, 38, 30, what, 38 years ago. So 38 years. No, it's not that long.
Thirty-one.
My math is
31.
wrong. 31
31.
years ago. Yeah, 30 my math. Wow. 31 years ago. And she still she's just now getting into allowing herself to be healed, dealing with her
Yeah.
issues. And so, but I really truly believe had I not gone through my process, then I would be no help to her. So, but my relationship with my mom is good. Of course I don't. I stopped resenting her years ago. But yeah, it's good. She again, she get on my nerves. She called me like, "Mom, would you please stop calling me? I am at work." No, it's
That's
all in fun. I love her though. I love her.
That's good. I still hear that protective nature in your voice, even when you were talking about your siblings. Like, listen, y'all need to check in, okay? Y'all
They
need
do.
y'all need
Yeah,
to
stop playing
check
with
in.
me.
There
They
you let's
know.
stop playing in my face, as one of my friends would say. But that's so good. I love, hearing the stories of people. I'm a stories person. So understanding how someone starts and then listening and having sometimes the privilege to just see people journey into their freedom, it's such a God thing. It's really
Hmm.
such a God thing because no one but God can really kind of guide us along the
Hmm.
journey from childhood up into adulthood, and our lives really do a 180 based off of what we were dealt with. And you said it earlier, we can either have that victimization mindset and say, woe is me, it happened to
Hmm.
me, so now I'm going to sit in the space of somebody should have did it for me then, and so because they didn't
Yeah.
do it for me then, this is just how I am.
Oh,
I think
man.
we have to
Hmm.
come out of that mindset of this is how I am and say, no, okay, I need to go get some therapy. Okay, I need to
Yeah,
go see someone, talk to
absolutely.
someone, process this grief, process these emotions, so that I am showing up in a fuller version of myself, of really who God has called for me to be. So, last question, kind of, sort of, so you talked about that your siblings, not your siblings, but your children, they are, they love one another, they're able to get along. How is just the overall family dynamic? Are you pleased with where it is now?
I am. Of course, there is more to, more growing that needs to take place. Some more walls that need to be broken through because of, lack, the lack, that I had there that I
Hmm.
played a part in of not being father to my son. But I'm pleased with where we are currently, but just really excited about, like I said, where we're going. My son hasn't yet to come to Chicago because number one, he's just too afraid, and I think that's the only. He's too afraid to get on an airplane. He doesn't want to fly.
Really?
And told me he'll come if we drive, but of course I'm not driving
Right.
to Chicago. So we've planned, my children and I, we're going to see him. His birthday's in February.
Okay.
So we'll be going to see him then. So it's good. We're in a good space. And like I say, I'm just looking forward to growing. So to answer the question, I am pleased with the family dynamic now. And then of course there's still you have a stepmother, his mom, may feel some kind of way, or, has her reservations, another woman, but it's all workable. We're at a
Absolutely.
space now where this is the stuff that's easy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, this is easy. It's just a matter of growing together.
Right.
Understanding where each other is, each other's roles are, and
Right.
moving from there. Nobody's trying to outdo anybody, or no. It's about blending. You bring who you are, your individuality. I'll bring my individuality, and we marry the two and make it work. So,
That's
but yeah, I
good.
am pleased with it. Yep.
I love that part, bringing the two together, blending the personalities and working everything is workable.
Yeah.
That's it right there, especially when we're talking about blending families. Everything is workable. My thing is always just making sure that you get your stuff together. Like, don't bring your negative emotions, your
Absolutely.
negative thoughts.
Absolutely.
Don't bring the past into what we're creating for the present and for the future. And as long as everybody is on the same page with that,
Yeah.
there will always be a beautiful blend of
Yeah.
just family dynamics, because no family is perfect. But as long as
Yeah.
we're willing, everything
Hmm.
is going to be good. So tell us, Derek, just like, what are some things that you do for fun? We talked about the heavy stuff, but what are some things that you just do for
Listen, I'm
fun?
telling you, I love being in this crib, okay? Putting my feet up, sitting on, watching Netflix, eating my chips. I don't know. No, outside of that, I am a foodie, so I love not just great food, but like the whole dining experience. I'll go out and try, different restaurants just for the dining experience. We're a traveling family, so I love traveling is fun
Oh,
for me.
that's fun.
So
Yes.
I love going places. Being in the military, it's always gone. So that's something. Aside from that, just being local, I am a person that loves to be outside, just walking around. I'll sit outside on my patio. Um, I love, bowling, and just the average type stuff. I mean, I could be a daredevil sometimes. I've gone skydiving. I don't know if I want to do it again. I was gonna lose myself. But
Listen, bless y'all who get.
but
Yeah, that's not for me. I like
yeah.
to keep my
But
feet on the ground.
yeah, I gotta walk where I'm going now. But yeah, I mean that's about it. I enjoy, music and I do that kind of stuff. I'm like I say, I'm a girl dad. So my daughter has been a cheerleader, so I'm out there with my cheer shirt on. I'm
Come on,
hollering
cheer
loud.
dad.
I'm a cheer dad. I am a cheer dad. My son plays football, so I'm hollering at the screen while I'm watching here while he's out playing. So I mean, that's my fun, and just, making sure that my people are good. So,
That's what's up. Um, I had a question and the thing literally just like flew right out of my mind. And I feel like it was a really good question too. And I don't know where it went and why that thing just left me so fast. Oh, there it is. It came back. What would you say, just to anyone listening, specifically a father who has experienced what you have experienced, what would be the advice that you would give them?
this is one thing that I adopted and learned myself, and that is to suffer well.
Mm,
Suffering well allows me to feel the hurt, feel the pain, but deal with it in a way that causes me healing, not further hurt myself, not be that victim. So I would say, especially to us men, that we have to, in order to take true and full accountability, we gotta heal properly. But the only way that we can heal is if we suffer through the healing process, and it's going to hurt. It's
it's
going to hurt.
going to hurt.
It's that revealing of the ugly. You just got to deal with it and grow from, because I mean, it's legit the only way. Like, putting it in the under the rug, sweeping it under the rug, putting it in a closet or room and shutting the door, it's still going to be there. It may not come out now or 2 years from now, but eventually, what you've hidden will resurface. And it may not even be in a way that you think, but
Mhm, yeah,
it'll peek its head in other areas of our lives. And so we have to suffer well. And that suffering well means, go through that process and don't stop. And then you'll know when you've arrived to that place of healing, when what used to hurt obviously don't hurt anymore, but you're able to verbalize it too.
yeah,
So, we don't talk about stuff. We'll say I'm healed from it. I'm okay with it. I got over it, but you still not verbalizing it. And you not speaking it actually means that you're not healed from it. So
absolutely.
I would just encourage you to go to the root cause, because we have to be whole. It's not a 50-50 thing, even in marriage. It's not even with our children, it's a wholeness, 100. You got to get the good and the bad, and the pretty and the ugly. So that's my thing to help anybody that's dealing with men. Encourage you to just suffer well.
I love that. Suffer well. Where can the people find you? Are you on social media?
I am on social media. I got two pages. One is a ministry page, and one is my personal. My personal page is Derek, DREK Mays, Mayes. That's on Facebook. And then I am D Mays Ministries on Facebook as well. So my LinkedIn too.
I do not know
Derek
how to.
Mays.
I don't know how to work LinkedIn.
Well, I don't. I only use it because it's work. Work,
Okay,
especially working. As an HR
right.
professional, I have to have that LinkedIn stuff. So I don't care to use it. Trust me, I don't even really use it, honestly.
I need to
Um,
really figure out how to use it. That's what
yeah,
I
it's
need to do.
I don't know. I don't care. When I tell you I'm barely on it, barely. But yeah, that could be found on LinkedIn as well.
All right, y'all. So, um, we just had an amazing conversation with Derek, and if you didn't take anything away from this episode, y'all, take away that last piece, which is suffer well. It is important for men. And this is why I really wanted to specifically create just a whole season just for talking with men and hearing their perspectives on their life, their stories, their healing journeys. And from all of the men that we've heard so far, healing is necessary. You have to dig it up. You have to confront it. You have to look at it in the face. And then you have to not move on from it, but you have to work through it, because that's how you really break generational curses. We can hear about it all the time. I'm a curse breaker, or I'm this, or I'm that. But how are you really breaking that generational pattern that has been plaguing your bloodline? So, Derek, thank you so much for
Thank
this
you. Thank you for having me.
conversation. I know that it is going to impact many, many people. Y'all can follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The information for where you can find him will be linked in today's episode. Until next time, y'all. So you just finished listening to episode 2 of season 3 of the Parent Network podcast, and I need y'all to do me a favor. If you are listening on Spotify, go ahead and go scroll down, and you will see a question from the end of this episode. Do me a favor and answer that question. When you all answer the questions and engage, it helps me to get more topics for our podcast. So go ahead and answer that question at the end of this episode.